Secy from the Cabinet Secretariat, who is an additional secretary there, and leading a lot of infrastructure projects. So it would be a good idea to hear from another angle how ICT overall can help activate the growth of the economy. Sir.
My compliments to the organizers, because there has hardly been a conference where at the end of the day you have so many people sitting and listening. Either he's offering an excellent dinner or it's been a very useful conference here. As he rightly said, I will provide to you some other version of what is being discussed today. Being a practitioner myself and probably the most or the least literate as far as technology is concerned, I will give you the practical aspect of how technology can possibly be used. To my mind, no matter what we discuss here, ultimately what matters is, what do we do to the ultimate beneficiary? That's the critical question we should ask in using any technology. You know, in India, we are very good at imagining India, we are very good at planning India, we are getting very good at thinking India. Almost everyone has an idea, but it's very difficult to walk the walk. It's easy to talk the talk. So everyone has an idea. I'm sure you must have discussed a number of ideas today. But as I said, ultimately it matters whether that idea works, not works in my context, but in the context of the people who it tends to benefit. And I will deliberate on this because no matter what you do, you and I think here, talk here, we have ultimate determinant of whatever we do, whether the government or you, is whether the stakeholder stands benefited. And that is why, for all the schemes that the government runs, for all the technologies that we talk of, I have been very vigorously talking about evaluate a particular idea in the context of the benefit it has actually, or the value proposition for the ultimate recipient. That is the bottom line. Whether the stakeholders stand benefited, and stakeholder in this case, whatever we do, whether we talk of RSPY or Addl, whether the ultimate recipient of an RSPY card or the Addl card stood to benefit by what we did. And I'm not very sure whether adequate third-party evaluations have been done in terms of the numbers of people who benefited. This is the question that I raised before the originator of Addl, and I asked them this question: please give me the number of people who have actually benefited out of Addl, not by recipient of a card. But what exactly did he get? Has there been a third-party evaluation of the 60 million Aadhaar cards that are there in the field, of how many of those actually got any benefit? Now, I was listening to a presentation that was being made when I walked in. Again, I talk of ideas, and I've been hearing that for the past 3-4 years. But ultimate determinant of whatever idea you and I have is the recipient of that benefit. Whether he is feeling satisfied, and I'm raising this issue here as a separate point, because ultimately that is what that matters. No matter what we talk about, how we talk about, that is one. Number two, whatever idea you have, for it to be implemented on the ground, in a democracy it has to have political backing, but it should not itself become political. Please understand the difference, the critical difference between that I'm trying to make here. If the idea itself becomes political, then you can rest assured that the next government will dump it. And as I was sitting there, I was reading a news item from Times of India on my card that the Cabinet Committee on Aadhaar has been disbanded. A brilliant idea. I mean, I still promote that idea. But the moment you make it political, it has to be political backed. The moment you make it political, it will be done. And it should be our duty to ensure that it continues to remain apolitical, because fundamentally any idea has to be good, which indeed Aadhaar is. A brilliant idea. So there are two parameters that you have to look into: whether the ultimate beneficiary is getting any value out of it. What is the value proposition that will sustain that idea? And secondly, in order to make things happen in India, there are 4 things that have to happen. Number 1, it should be socially desirable. It should be technologically feasible. It should be financially viable. And in democracy, it should be politically acceptable. But I repeat saying that it should not become political. If it becomes political, a good idea could well be in trouble. A brilliant idea could well be in trouble. So what we have to do is, and I'll take you to what we are attempting to do here, because it's extremely critical that ultimately how the stakeholders perceive what you're doing. the past 1 year that I have been doing, and you mentioned about the infrastructure project, in fact it is much more than infrastructure project. This group was set up in the month of June, probably we complete 1 year today, in the way of total disgruntlement amongst the industry with regard to various projects that were getting stuck. So I was actually serving the poorest of the poor, doing a scheme called RSBY, which was not sexy enough to be noticed in India, but internationally it did get a lot of notice. Suddenly when the government discovered that this scheme is happening, they plucked me out from serving the poorest of the poor and placed me to serve the richest of the rich. So this group was constituted to monitor and facilitate projects that had an investment of more than 1,000 crore of rupees. I didn't have a clue what to do. But one thing I was clear, that whatever gets done has to be so transparent that no one should be able to point a finger toward what is happening. And that's where, despite not knowing anything about the technology, we use technology. And probably today ours is the only office in the country which doesn't have a single file. We don't have any file. All our business happens on the portal. And in the Cabinet Secretariat, so when I broached this issue with my boss and I told him that in the Cabinet Secretariat, I will not have a paper or a file, he said, in Cabinet Secretariat, even a normal letter goes under seal cover. And you are not only making it transparent, you are putting it on the portal for everyone to see. I said, sir, it is too serious a matter. I don't want another scam to happen. We'll have everything there. If I am committing any error, it will be known to everybody. They will ask me now rather than 5 years down the line, raid my house and find out what went wrong. So everyone is in the know of things. Make it totally transparent. So how do we do it? Let me explain to you how we did it. Again, as I said, I am a process man, I don't know technology. I am an operations man, I don't know what technology is. But I am very thankful, I am indebted to those people who bring technology to me and make me understand how it can be used. It's to their credit that they tell a non-technologist how technology could be used, and I use that technology. So what do we do? Any industry having any problem, having an investment of more than 1,000 crore, goes to the portal, registers himself, lists out the problems that he has ministry-wise. The moment that project is accepted by us on the portal, automatically these problems go to the designated officers who are back-end connected. Now in government, there is a term called Jari. Jari is issue. You issue a letter. So very often you will say that I have issued the letter and the guy will say I have not received it. So I have coined a phrase, when I sign the letter it is Ja, when you receive the letter it is Ri. There is a long gap between Jari. Electronically, the moment you push the button it's Jari, no one can say it's come to me or not. So here in this case it goes automatically to these joint secretaries. They are mandated to put their comments on the portal, which is visible to the industry. So that is how the information flow happens. Now we constituted 12 subgroups based on the problem-creating ministries. We euphemistically call them recipient ministries. We couldn't have called them problem-creating ministries, like environment and forest and so on and so forth. We have 12 subgroups which meet on a fixed day and time. Now why I'm telling you all this is, it is the operations that matters. India doesn't have a problem with technology. You know, you have billions of software running here. You talk to anybody, every department has a software. And when you have to do something, the first thing that they do is to buy hardware. Then they look at the software, and then they look at the process. We do it the reverse. We first look at the process, then the software, and then we think of hardware. So what we did in this goes to them on a fixed day, every week we meet with the concerned ministry. Minutes of the meeting are dictated real time during the meeting on the portal. So we don't require any paper, we don't require any file. It's there transparently available. And what we did, and what probably he suffered us, we used to travel to the states. Every Monday and Friday, our team travels to a state, discuss the issues with them. He was rightly mentioning that you have to take it to the states. And the advantage of holding meetings in the state is that you don't discuss with one person. A whole team of officers sitting, and I am thankful to him. He not only got those officers, when he was chief secretary, he got the district collectors either sitting in the meeting or on the video conference. That is what that matters. No matter what technology you have, if people don't work, your technology will not help you. So mind you, you have to look into the operations aspect. The environment surrounding the technology is much, much more important. Technology is not an issue. I mean, you will come to a conclusion how cloud can be used, what are the security issues, I'm sure you will come. But still not many people will be able to use it because they don't understand the utility, efficacy and the potential of cloud computing and how cloud can be useful to them. To me, it is extremely important to educate those people around the technology, and not only educate them in terms of how to use it, in terms of why should they use it. The efficacy, the utility, that has to be understood by the user. When that happens, my job is over. Now, consequent to what we did here, in 1 year of operations of project monitoring room, we managed to facilitate clearance of 155 projects entailing an investment of 5.5 lakh crores. And because of this, perhaps for the first time in this country, both the President, FICCI and CII wrote to the Prime Minister stating, this is how it should be in the states also. And fortunately, states have come on board. And sir, I'd like to inform you, Jharkhand is launching its state project monitoring group on the 13th of this month. I'm going there, we'll miss you there. Because it all started with you. So 14 states have agreed to set up their own project monitoring group. Now this is important not only in context of technology, in context of their ownership of the technology. See, again, this is very important. If the stakeholders own the technology that you are giving, your job is done. If it is seen as being pushed down the throat, they will not own it, it will not sustain. For sustainability, it is essential that these stakeholders own it. And mind you, another thing which keeps getting talked about in technology circles is pilots. Pilot project here, pilot project there. You know, unfortunately in India, pilots don't fly literally and otherwise. So the true test of any idea is its applicability on scale. If it is not scaled, and in a country like ours, it has to run into millions for it to be tested. You can't say, I have done this, I have given this, I have given... No. You test it on scale, on a large scale, not through pilots. You know, I used to keep going to World Bank when I was doing my previous RSP assignment, and I used to challenge them, you run so many pilots in the world, in all of those countries, have you made an evaluation of how many of those pilots have been scaled? And they didn't have an answer. It was easy to run a pilot because everyone puts all the energies there and somehow make it happen. But those energies cannot be replicated elsewhere. So the key test is whether an idea is replicable, scalable. That's the true test of an idea. So we may be discussing, you would have discussed many ideas, some of them extremely brilliant ideas. You know, in India, you had the idea of wooden khatola, you had the idea of Agni Ban. Now who invented or who did the aeroplane and the missiles? Somebody else. So we are good at ideas, which is good. You should have ideas. You should dream. Without dream, you would not progress. But with your feet firmly on the ground, understanding ground realities. So I can get away with making a speech here because, again, in India, we have the diagnosis and prescription. The problem is application, not diagnosis and prescription. Almost everyone gives you a diagnosis and prescription. So you have diagnosis and prescription, you have these ideas. The key is to walk the walk. And it is when you walk the walk, you realize the actual problems on the ground. And each of the ideas, everything has to be tested on the ground. Without that, nothing works. So when we spoke of RSBY, we spoke of it not because we issued 35 million cards. We spoke about it because 6 million people have actually gone to the hospital and benefited. Talk to them. That is the scheme where we had a third-party evaluation on satisfaction rating of the beneficiary who had the card. And the satisfaction rating ranged between 70 and 90% unheard of government schemes because they stood benefited. And since there was a mention of smart card and there was mention of, I totally agree that smart card should be dispensed with the day India gets connected through the country. But unfortunately, it is not so today. In fact, I would like to share with you, Germany, which is so advanced, we were supporting them in 3 smart card projects because they had connectivity problems in certain areas. And when I say connectivity, it has to be real-time connectivity. You can't have a patient sitting in a hospital waiting for the connectivity for his impression to be checked at some back-end data, and he has to be admitted there. So you have to this is non-understanding of ground reality. You understand the ground reality, you have a hybrid system, and gradually do away with the smart card and switch over to the internet. Fair enough, that's the ultimate objective. You have to go there, that's the idea. But if you don't understand the ground reality, he will be stuck with some biometric data which he can't connect with the back end, and the patient will die. How else you identify it? So you have to understand the ground reality in order to deliver something on the ground. I am saying that with little experience that I have had. I hope I am totally wrong. And let us go ahead with the idea that we have. But my little experience that I have had tells me that please test every idea on the ground. See whether it works on the ground. And when I say not through a pilot, but through scaling of it. If the scaling of it will allow you to ascertain whether it actually works on the ground. So instead of us talking and saying we've done this, we've done that, let third party do it. Let me not test it myself. Let third party evaluate and tell me. Every scheme, every idea needs to be third. Independent party should evaluate and determine, yes, it works. So you have a process evaluation, you have an output evaluation, you have an outcome evaluation. That will tell you whether an idea works or not. There's no point in telling that this my idea has so much potential. You can say it can work here, it can work here, and the next step will be it should work here, it should work there. How does that matter if it doesn't work actually on the ground? So proof of pudding lies in eating it. So make it work. If it is so great, it should have worked. If it is not so great, then let's admit that it's not great and improve upon it and make that idea great by demonstrating the efficacy and utility of an idea that you have. This demonstration is extremely important. Sitting in these rooms, we will never be able to demonstrate the efficacy. It has to be done in the field. And that's where the real thing lies. So finally, I would like to thank Mr. Gupta for having invited me here. He gave me a very short notice. He asked me to come yesterday probably, he told me. But I like the way he goes about doing things. And I really admire that he's got you all sitting here for so long. We all look forward to an excellent dinner. Thank you.